Hello, very good afternoon. Welcome to the Review Desk, where we review all the major top stories that has made headline throughout the week, from Monday through to Friday. I want to say a big thank you to the lineup team bringing us up to speed from the world of sports. My name is El Samuels. Now we go straight into the first major story, where the President, John Dramani Mahama, has officially launched a 1,000-unit green city housing project aimed at expanding affordable, sustainable housing delivery for Ghanaians, particularly public sector workers. The project is spearheaded under the administration of John Dramani Mahama, forms part of a broader housing agenda focused on reducing the country's housing deficit. The initiative, known as the Green City Housing Project, will deliver 1,000 residential units built with a focus on modern, eco-friendly and cost-efficient designs. Government officials says the project is intended to improve access to decent housing whilst promoting sustainable urban development practices, including energy efficiency and improved infrastructure planning. The housing units are expected to benefit middle and low-income earners, with priority given to public sector workers such as teachers, nurses, and security personnel. The project is also expected to create jobs during the construction phase and stimulate activities in the local building materials and real estate sectors. Authorities say the green housing project will be rolled out in phases, with the first set of units expected to be completed within the scheduled construction timelines. The launch adds to the ongoing government efforts to address Ghana's housing challenges through large-scale infrastructure and social development projects.
Ghana's housing challenge has become more pronounced and demands clarity of purpose and decisive action to resolve. Our national housing deficit is now estimated at over 1.5 million units. This reflects years of failing supply short of demand. Rising land values, escalating construction costs, and limited access to long-term financing have placed ownership beyond the reach of many Ghanaians. The result is clear. Informal settlements continue to expand, slums, and too many of our people are living in substandard conditions. This pressure is intensified by the rapid urbanization currently taking place in our country. Today, more than half of the population of Ghana lives in urban areas, and projections indicate that this could rise to about 70% of our population living in urban areas by the year 2050. Cities such as Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi will continue to grow rapidly and will be swamped by the migration from other parts of the country. If we do not therefore act urgently and at scale, tomorrow's housing crisis will far exceed what we're experiencing today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, government's reset agenda is not just a slogan. It is a commitment to rethink how we deliver housing, infrastructure, and opportunity for our people. At the heart of this vision is a simple yet powerful belief that decent housing is not a privilege for a few, but it is a right for all our people. Access to housing improves public health. It strengthens educational outcomes. It boosts productivity and stabilizes communities. A nation that is seeking development must house its people with dignity. We are therefore implementing a comprehensive housing agenda that addresses supply, improves affordability, strengthens tenant protection, and reforms housing finance to reflect the reality of Ghanaian incomes. Progress is already underway. The Saglemi Affordable Housing Project, which was begun in the previous term of the NDC, is being prioritized for completion. New social housing initiatives driven at the district level are also being rolled out to reduce financial barriers to ownership.
Away from the housing project, the Maranatha Power Ministries International has climbed out its Women's Week celebration with a special Mother's Day event honoring women and mothers for their vital role in society. The event brought together scores of women in a colorful celebration filled with praise, reflection, and empowerment. The program forms part of activities to recognize the strength, resilience, and impact of women in both the church and the national development. The Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection, Dr. Na Momolate, graced the occasion and shared a message of encouragement with the women.
Women have the reproductive role. You think God didn't know what we are capable of, that He created us such that for generations to continue, He has to choose women to carry the next generation. Amen. 9 months before delivering.
Amen. Na se nyame enti mupono ebewie peyono enunti na opao emma eno odi ade fefefe sie memo se na ebe ya want to asono enu su betna da.
So once you are born a woman, once you are born female, once you are born a girl, know that it is a man plus more.
Amen. Say ya wo say akwala a wo yoba ana obebuno ana se obemu a ewo nioma unim se nyame de fa wo mu ediaba.
So you realize that women think intergenerationally.
Enti emma ni omaye no eya wonto aso ade.
I was also sharing that being the Minister for Gender, who takes care of men, women, children, orphans, widows, widowers, persons with disabilities, and all vulnerable groups, I can tell you, before a woman will say, I'm packing my bag and luggage and leaving this marriage, they consider the impact of it on the children. And so you will hear most often people saying, it's because of the children, that is why I am still in the abusive relationship. We don't just think. We think of the next generation. We think of the impact. Amen. So we are builders of generations.
Amen.
She also presented gifts to mothers, acknowledging their sacrifices and contribution to society. The celebration ended with prayers and appreciation for mothers as participants expressed gratitude for the opportunity to be recognized and uplifted. Organizers say the Women's Week celebration will continue to serve as a platform to empower and inspire women across the generations. According to your knowledge. Away from the Women's Week and still the International Women's Month, we move to the presidency, where the President John Dramani Mahama has signed the Legal Education Reform Bill, paving the way for significant changes to Ghana's legal training system. President John Dramani Mahama has officially signed a legal education reform bill aimed at restructuring legal training and improving access to legal education in Ghana. The reform is expected to address long-standing concerns about entry barriers, capacity limitation, and transparency in legal education and admission process. The bill introduces measures to expand opportunities for qualified law graduates while strengthening standards within the legal training institution. It is also expected to review admission processes into professional law program, which has been a subject of public debate over the year. Stakeholders in the legal sector have long called for reforms to improve fairness and increase the number of trained legal professionals in the country. The development is expected to spark further national discussion on access, standards, and the future of legal education in Ghana.
Regulate legal education and ensure the highest standards in terms of legal education, but also to open up the space, for more opportunity for legal education in Ghana. This particular act has been one that many aspiring lawyers have been looking up to, so it's been signed.
Still with the presidency, the President John Dramani Mahama has joined a host of African heads of states and the global partners at the France-African Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, where leaders are engaging on economic cooperation, security, and sustainable development across the continent. President John Dramani Mahama is among prominent African leaders attending the high-level France-African Summit currently underway in Nairobi. The summit, which brings together policymakers, business leaders, and international partners, is focused on strengthening economic ties between Africa and France whilst addressing pressing issues such as climate change, regional security, and infrastructure development. Mr. Mahama's participation highlights Ghana's continual interest in shaping continental dialogue on growth and investment, particularly in areas of trade, energy, and youth employment. Discussions at the summit are also expected to explore new financing models and partnership aimed at accelerating Africa's development agenda, growing calls for equitable global cooperation. The France-African Summit continues over the coming days with key resolutions anticipated to influence policy direction and international collaboration across the continent. Away from the France-African Summit in Nairobi, Kenya, the Ministry of Education, Ghana, has constituted a special committee to investigate the rising hostel fees across the tertiary institution following a growing concern from students and parents over affordability. The Ministry of Education, Ghana, has announced the formation of a committee to probe the escalating cost of hostel accommodation in tertiary institutions nationwide. The move comes amidst mounting complaints from students who says the rising fees are placing significant financial strain on families and threatening access to higher education. According to the ministry, the committee has been tasked with reviewing current pricing structures, assessing the role of private hostel operators, recommending measures to ensure fairness and transparency in the system. Authorities say the investigation will also examine regulatory gaps and exploit options for standard hostel fees across institutions. Stakeholders, including university authorities, students' union, and private accommodation providers, are expected to be engaged as part of the process. The committee is expected to present its findings and recommendations in the coming weeks, with government assuring that appropriate action will be taken to protect students and restore confidence in the sector.
We're also aware publicly there has been concerns about adjustment to hostel fees. There is a committee which will work with the Ministry of Education, GTech, and the Vice Chancellors of the universities. We will be convening to deliberate further and consult further in order that we find an amicable solution to it. But be assured that government will simply not run on the principles of private partnership, and therefore unlimited laissez-faire guidance will dictate the pace. We will be social, and we will reflect social values and social concerns in the delivery of that public good.
Away from the Ministry of Education, the story is still the news review live and direct from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate, the weekend where we recap all the major top stories. We're going for a commercial break. When we return, we'll bring you more of the stories. Welcome back. You're still live on the review. The major top stories that have made headlines throughout the week has been recapped here on MBN TV, your mega broadcasting network. Now we move straight to the stories. The University of Ghana Medical Center Human Milk Bank is calling on nursing mothers to donate breast milk to support premature and critically ill babies in need of a life-saving nutrition. The Human Milk Bank at the University of Ghana Medical Center is appealing to lactating mothers to donate excess breast milk to help save the lives of vulnerable newborns. Health officials at the facility says the demand for donor milk continues to rise, particularly for premature babies whose mothers may be unable to produce sufficient milk. Breast milk is widely recognized by the World Health Organization as the ideal source of nutrition for infants, providing essential nutrients and antibodies that protect against infections and support healthy development. The UGMC team assures potential donors that the process is safe, confidential, strictly screened to ensure the highest standards of quality and safety before milk is administered to babies. Authorities are urging healthy nursing mothers with surplus milk to consider donating, emphasizing that a single donation could make the difference between life and death for a newborn in critical care. The Human Milk Bank continues to play a vital role in neonatal care, with renewed calls for public support to sustain its operation and expand its reach. Away from the UGMC, the President John Dramani Mahama has returned to Ghana following his participation in the high-level Forward African Summit in Nairobi, where leaders across the continent converged to discuss economic transformation, regional integration, and Africa's global competitiveness.
President John Dramani Mahama is back in the country after attending the Africa Forward Summit held in Nairobi, Kenya, a gathering that brought together policymakers, business leaders, and development partners from across the continent. During the summit, discussions centered on accelerating Africa's economic recovery, boosting intra-African trade under the African Continental Free Trade Area, and strengthening governance systems to attract sustainable investments. Mr. Mahama, who played an active role in several high-level sessions, emphasized the need for African leaders to adopt bold, forward-looking policies that prioritize job creation, digital innovation, and industrial growth, particularly for the youth. He also highlighted Ghana's strategic position in driving regional economic cooperation and called for stronger partnerships between governments and the private sector to unlock opportunities across key sectors. The Africa Forward Summit comes at a time when many African economies are grappling with inflationary pressures, debt challenges, and rising unemployment, making such engagements critical for shaping the continent's future. Mahama's participation is expected to feed into ongoing national and regional conversations on economic resilience and policy direction.
Now, from this story on the return of the president back into the country, we go for a commercial break. It's still the review live and direct from our studios. We also live across our social media handles on MBN 360. Please don't go away. We'll bring you some more of the stories after the break. Welcome back from the commercial world. The news review continues. More than 500,000 senior high school students across Ghana have to begin writing the 2026 West African Senior High School Certificate Examination conducted by the West African Examination Council, WAEC.
Over 500,000 candidates from senior high schools nationwide are today sitting for the 2026 WASI, marking a critical milestone in their academic journey. The examination, administered by the West African Examinations Council, is being held at various centers across the country under tight supervision to ensure credibility and transparency. Officials say adequate measures have been put in place to prevent examination malpractice, including enhanced monitoring systems and the deployment of invigilators and security personnel to hotspot areas. The candidates, made up of both school and private entrants, will be tested over the coming weeks in core and elective subjects, with performance expected to play a key role in their progression into tertiary institutions. Education authorities have expressed confidence in the preparedness of students following months of academic work and revision, despite concerns in some quarters over challenges such as inadequate learning materials and infrastructure in certain schools. Parents and guardians have also been urged to provide the necessary support to candidates throughout the examination period. The WASI remains a major benchmark in Ghana's education system, determining access to universities, colleges, and other higher learning institutions.
Away from the exam centers, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Abuja, says government's big push infrastructure initiative is focused on accelerating national development and should not be reduced to partisan politics.
The Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Abuja, has defended the government's big push agenda, insisting it is a strategic intervention aimed at transforming Ghana's infrastructure landscape rather than a politically motivated program. Speaking on the initiative, the minister emphasized that the policy is designed to fast-track critical road projects, improve connectivity, and stimulate economic growth across the country. He noted that the big push will prioritize key sectors including transportation, urban development, and regional access roads, with the ultimate goal of enhancing trade, reducing travel time, and creating jobs. Mr. Abuja also called for a bipartisan support, urging stakeholders and the opposition to view the initiative through the lens of national interest rather than political competition. The big push forms part of broader efforts by government to address Ghana's infrastructure deficit, which experts say remains a major constraint to economic expansion. However, critics have questioned the timing and financing of the initiative, raising concerns about sustainability and transparency. Despite this, the minister maintains that the long-term benefit will outweigh the cost, positioning Ghana for inclusive growth and development.
Of course, there are some contractors whose previous mindset about these things is such that they take the job, sleep on it, and then never care about the timelines. Well, there's a new sheriff in town. President Mahama is not going to tolerate any contractor who takes the job and doesn't work to timeline. We must work within the timelines. And we have another group of contractors who are so determined. You hear these contractors saying that they are ready to start working day and night. And there are some, the first contractor to finish work, I suspect, will be somewhere in Volta region. They work 3 shifts and they are determined to finish by the end of this year, almost 1 year ahead of schedule. The scope has not been changed, the rates in the BOQ hasn't changed. It is just the attitude of that contractor to prove a point that big push can be delivered on schedule and on time, and that's what we are doing.
And that was the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Abuja. The President and NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama announced an ambitious health infrastructure plan aimed at expanding regional healthcare delivery, with 6 major hospitals targeted for completion by 2028.
Under the proposal, the first phase will see 3 regional hospitals taking off for construction and rehabilitation works, with 1 major hospital targeted for completion by 2028.
2028.
And the proposal, the first phase will see 3 regional hospitals taking off for construction and rehabilitation works, with 1 major hospital targeted for completion by 2028. 3 regional hospitals taking off for construction and rehabilitation works, forming the foundation of a broader nationwide upgrade to secondary healthcare facilities. The plan is expected to focus on improving specialist services, reducing pressure on tertiary hospitals in Accra and Kumasi, and expanding access to emergency and diagnostic care across underserved regions. Mahama says the initiative is part of a long-term strategy to strengthen Ghana's health system resilience, with emphasis on modern equipment, increased bed capacity, and improved staffing structures. Health sector stakeholders are expected to review implementation timelines, funding models, and regional seating priorities as the rollout begins.
We have commenced the procurement processes for the construction of 3 new regional hospitals in 3 of the newly created regions to improve healthcare outcomes for the people who live there. And by the end of 2028, we'll provide 3 more regional hospitals for the remaining 3 new regions. We've recently procured 3 new catheterization laboratories, popularly called cath labs, for Kolebu Teaching Hospital, for Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, and for Tamale Teaching Hospital. These labs will improve the diagnosis and treatment of cardiovascular conditions in the south, center, and northern parts of our country. At the Tamale Teaching Hospital, we're also building a new cardiothoracic center to save heart disease patients from traveling all the way to Kumasi and Accra to seek treatment. The Volta Regional Hospital and the Cape Coast Hospital will also have new cardio centers built to cater for patients in the eastern and western parts of our country.
The President, John Dramani Mahama, still at the presidency, the President and the NDC flag bearer is farming his Accra Reset agenda as a bold continental call for health sovereignty, arguing that Africa must reduce dependency on external systems to strengthen its healthcare independence.
Speaking on the emerging policy direction, Mahama says the Accra Reset's vision is designed to reorient African health systems towards self-reliance, stronger domestic manufacturing of essential medicines, and improved regional coordination in disease prevention and response. The concept places emphasis on building resilient health infrastructure, investing in local pharmaceutical production, and enhancing training for healthcare professionals to reduce reliance on foreign medical supply chains. He argues that the COVID-19 pandemic exposed structural weaknesses in Africa's health systems, making it urgent for governments to rethink funding models, procurement strategies, and cross-border healthcare cooperation. Policy analysts say the proposal could spark wider debate across the continent about financing, implementation capacity, and how quickly African states can transition from dependency to autonomy in critical health sectors.
The minority leader and member of parliament, Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin, has dismissed government value for money act as a politically overstated, describing it as much ado about nothing, and growing debate over the public spending reforms.
Speaking in parliament, Afenyo-Markin argued that the proposed framework adds little substantive change to existing procurement and public financial management laws, insisting that Ghana already has sufficient regulatory structures to ensure accountability in state expenditure. He claims the new push is more about political messaging than practical reform, questioning how effectively it will address long-standing concerns around cost overruns, inflated contracts, and weak enforcement mechanisms. Government side proponents, however, maintain that the act is designed to strengthen oversight, improve efficiency in public procurement, and ensure better returns on taxpayer-funded projects. The sharp exchange has intensified the broader political debate over fiscal discipline, with both sides trading accusations over who is more committed to safeguarding public resources.
The Ghana Education Service has given strong assurance that every candidate who passes this year's basic education certificate examination will be placed in a senior high school amidst growing public concern over placement challenges.
The Ghana Education Service says no qualified students will be left behind in the upcoming school placement process. According to officials, systems have been strengthened to ensure a smoother and more transparent placement exercise under the computerized school selection and placement system, CSSPS. This comes after years of complaints from parents and students over delays, mismatches, and self-placement difficulties. GES says it has expanded infrastructure in selected senior high schools and improved coordination to accommodate the increasing number of candidates qualifying each year. Authorities are also urging candidates and parents to carefully follow placement guidelines and avoid panic once results are released. The assurance comes as thousands of candidates across the country await their results, with many families anxious about gaining admission into top-tier schools. Education analysts say while the commitment is reassuring, the real test will be in execution, ensuring fairness, accessibility, and efficiency in the placement process. The GES insists the system is ready, but as always, all eyes will be on the rollout when placements begin.
Government has set an ambitious target to expand 5G network coverage to 70% of the population by the year 2027 as part of efforts to accelerate digital transformation.
Ghana is positioning itself as a digital leader in West Africa, with plans to significantly expand its 5G infrastructure over the next few years. Officials say the nationwide rollout will enhance internet speed, improve connectivity, and unlock opportunities in sectors such as healthcare, education, agriculture, and fintech. The initiative is expected to be driven in collaboration with telecom operators and regulatory bodies, including the National Communications Authority, to ensure compliance and efficient spectrum allocation. Authorities believe that expanding 5G access will not only boost innovation, but also support economic growth by enabling smart technologies, remote services, and digital entrepreneurship. However, analysts caution that challenges such as infrastructure costs, device affordability, and rural connectivity gaps must be addressed to achieve inclusive access. Consumers are also being encouraged to prepare for the transition as more devices and services begin to align with 5G capabilities. With the 2027 target in sight, the success of Ghana's 5G ambition will depend on how quickly infrastructure meets innovation and whether no community is left behind.
70% population coverage by Ghana at 70. It's going to be the fastest rollout anywhere in the world. It's ambitious, yes, I know, but that's why we are the shining black star. We will make it possible and people will come and learn from the expertise that we have on the team. And so to achieve this, the NTA is finalizing a 10-year national spectrum management framework. And this follows international best practices. And again, we've indicated that we want to have one national rollout date for everybody, as much as practical. That is the ambition.
The Minister for Communications and Innovation, Samanata George. The European Union has expressed readiness to support Ghana's efforts to combat illegal mining, commonly known as galamsey. According to the EU ambassador, Ishaq Razal Ashikbak,
the European Union says it is prepared to deepen cooperation with Ghana in tackling illegal mining activities that continue to threaten the environment and water bodies. EU Ambassador to Ghana, Eshad Razali Skinabak, indicated that the bloc is ready to provide technical assistance, policy support, and possible funding to help strengthen Ghana's response to galamsey. He noted that illegal mining remains a major environmental concern, contributing to deforestation, water pollution, and long-term ecological damage. The ambassador emphasized the importance of sustainable mining practices and strong enforcement of regulations to protect natural resources. He also highlighted the need for collaboration between governments, local communities, and international partners to effectively address the challenge. Ghana has in recent years intensified its fight against galamsey, with renewed calls for stricter enforcement and alternative livelihood programs for affected communities. Analysts say international backing, particularly from partners like the EU, could significantly boost Ghana's capacity to combat the menace. With global support building, the fight against galamsey may be gaining new momentum, but the real impact will depend on action on the ground.
So the EU is doing a multitude of things in Ghana. We are partnering in Ghana in a series of areas, certainly in development cooperation, also in security and defense, and we are very willing to partner with Ghana on the galamsey file also. We are involved in galamsey or protection against galamsey through a number of projects, but we are certainly willing to do more, but together with government. Everything we do is in coordination with government, and also the fight against galamsey would be in coordination with government. I think it's important to have a dialogue. I think it's important to increase and encourage responsibilization. Time will show if it's enough to ensure sustainability. Time will show if the enforcement that has to go along with such a framework is happening. Our stance is that what we are seeing today is definitely not sustainable.
And that brings us to the end of the major stories making headlines across the country from Monday to Friday. You can also react to any of the stories on our social media handles on MBN 360 or send us a word on 0537158638 via SMS or WhatsApp. The review continues. This time around, we move to the business desk where the Ghana cedi has recorded a marginal depreciation on the foreign exchange market, with a US $1 now selling around 11 cedis 19 pesos at the Forex Bureau, despite relatively stable market expectation. The Ghana cedi has slipped slightly against the US dollars on the retail forex market, with exchange rates showing $1 trading at approximately 11 Ghana cedis 90 pesos at the Forex Bureau. Market watchers say the movement reflects mild pressure on the local currency, even though overall expectations remain relatively anchored. Analysts noted that the cedi's performance continues to be influenced by the demand for foreign exchange, import needs, and broader macroeconomic conditions. Despite the marginal depreciation, some financial observers say the currency had shown period of stability in recent trading sessions. The situation has renewed attention on the foreign exchange management and the sustainability of recent gains made by the local currency in earlier period. Market participants are expected to closely monitor development in the coming days as global and domestic factors continue to influence exchange rate movements. Trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange ended on a mixed note as overall market activity sharply declined, with analysts pointing to weaker investor participation and caution statements.
The Ghana Stock Exchange recorded mixed performance at the close of trading as a significant drop in market activity signaled warning investor momentum. While some equities posted modest gains, others declined, reflecting an uneven market trend amid low trading volumes. Market watchers say the sharp dip in activity suggests investors are adopting a wait-and-see approach amid ongoing economic uncertainties. Data from the exchange indicates that both the volume and value of shares traded fell considerably compared to previous sessions, raising concerns about liquidity on the market. Analysts attribute the slowdown to a combination of factors, including tight financial conditions, limited institutional participation, and broader macroeconomic pressures. Despite the downturn in trading activity, some market players remain optimistic that improved economic stability and policy clarity could help restore investor confidence in the coming months. The development underscores the need for sustained effort to deepen Ghana's capital markets and attract both local and foreign investments.
And still on the economy, Ghana's economy has recorded a strong expansion of 7.7%, according to a new data from the Ghana Statistical Service, pointing to renewed momentum across key sectors of the economy.
The latest economic update shows that the services sector remains the main engine of growth, contributing the largest share to overall performance. Key areas such as finance, ICT, health, and trade drove activity, reinforcing services as the backbone of Ghana's short-term economic recovery. The industry sector also posted robust gains, supported by strong performance in mining, manufacturing, and electricity, while agriculture recorded comparatively slower growth. Economists say the figures suggest a broad-based recovery, but also highlights the continued dominance of services in shaping Ghana's economic outlook. Government officials are expected to respond to the data in the coming days as debate continues over whether the growth is translating into improved living conditions for citizens.
The Ghana fixed income market has recorded a sharp surge in trading activities with a total transaction crossing 1.5 billion Ghana cedis in a single day, signaling renewed investor appetite for government and money market instruments.
Market data shows that the spike was driven largely by increased demand for treasury bills, bonds, and short-term fixed income securities as institutional investors repositioned portfolios amid shifting interest rate expectations. The performance highlights growing liquidity within the fixed income space, with analysts suggesting that improved microeconomic signals and relatively stability in yields may be encouraging more aggressive trading activity. Financial experts say the surge could also reflect short-term repositioning by banks and fund managers looking to maximize returns while managing risk exposure in a changing monetary environment. The Ghana Fixed Income Market (GFIM) continued to serve as a key platform for government borrowing and investor participation, playing a central role in liquidity management across the financial sector.
The Finance Minister, Keselata Forson, says fiscal indiscipline played a major role in Ghana's restore to IMF, urging the nation to stay committed to reforms to sustain the current economic gains.
Finance Minister Dr. Kizil Atoforson has attributed Ghana's economic crisis and subsequent bailout to what he describes as years of fiscal indiscipline. Speaking on the state of the economy, he stressed that excessive spending, weak controls, and poor financial management contributed significantly to the country's decisions to seek support from the International Monetary Fund. Dr. Forson noted that while the economy is beginning to show signs of recovery under the IMF-supported program, sustaining these gains will require strict adherence to fiscal discipline and prudent economic policies. He warned against a return to past habits, emphasizing the need for government institutions to remain accountable and transparent in managing public resources. The Finance Minister also called on stakeholders, including public officials and citizens, to support efforts aimed at stabilizing the economy and restoring confidence. Economic analysts say the remark reflects a broader push by government to reinforce discipline as Ghana navigates its recovery path. As Ghana works its way out of crisis, the message is clear. Discipline must not only restore the economy, but sustain it.
We need to sustain the gains of economic stability to be able to attract private investment into our country and be able to build on it for sustainable growth that will benefit particularly the government. And so these are some of the things that we are putting in place. So bailout is out of the equation. But let me also make this point. And when I was a deputy minister here under Minister Tepe, he has often said that as for discipline, there's always a price for discipline. So you can, for example, today come out of an IMF program. And if you come out of an IMF program and you decide to be disciplined for 1 year, it may be enough justification to go back after the following year. And so I believe in it. Clearly, indiscipline is what has landed Ghana on a number of bailout programs, because largely we deplete our reserves so fast, and we enjoy the benefits of consolidation so quickly, and in the end, we go back to where we don't have to be. But what we seek to do going forward is to build on the momentum that this ECR has created for all of us and sustain it for a very long time so that the country can benefit from it. And that's all what we are seeking to do.
And that does it for the review of the major talking point on from the business desk. Now we're crossing over to the international front. Is a review, a news review live and direct from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Great Estate, Nungwa Adogono. We're also live across our social media handle on MBN 360. You can send your contributions to us on 0537158638. On the international front, several fishermen are feared dead following reported airstrikes carried out by Chadian forces targeting the Boko Haram positions near the Lake Chad Basin, raising concerns over civilian safety in the ongoing counter-terrorism operations. Fishermen are feared dead after reported airstrike by Chadian military forces targeted suspected Boko Haram positions around the Lake Chad Basin. The strike forms part of ongoing regional military operations against insurgent group, which has operated across Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon for years. Local reports suggest that some civilians, including fishermen who rely on the lake for their livelihood, may have been caught up in the operation. Authorities have not yet released an official casualty figure. An investigation into the incident are ongoing. Boko Haram has been responsible for years of violence in the region, prompting coordinated military responses from affected countries. The Lake Chad Basin remains a volatile area where military operations against insurgent groups continue alongside concerns over civilian safety. Away from the Chadian and also the Lake Chad Basin, tensions are rising in part of South Africa as reports indicate escalation in xenophobic attacks, with some officials allegedly participating in an intensified operation targeting foreign nationals.
South Africa is once again facing renewed concerns over xenophobic violence, as incidents targeting foreign nationals are reported to be increasing in several communities. Eyewitness accounts and local reports suggest that groups of foreign migrants have been harassed, displaced, and in some cases attacked, and growing reconstruction linked to unemployment, competition for informal jobs, and strained public services. The situation has been further complicated by allegations that some local officials are not only failing to curb the violence, but are reportedly involved in enforcement action that disproportionately affects foreign nationals. Human rights organizations have raised alarm, warning that such development could deepen social divisions and damage South Africa's international image if not urgently addressed. Authorities, meanwhile, are under pressure to restore order and clarify the role of law enforcement in the ongoing operations, as calls grow for a more human and lawful approach to migration management. The unfolding situation continues to spark regional concerns, with observers warning that failure to de-escalated tensions could lead to wider instability and diplomatic strain across Southern Africa.
Away from South Africa to the North America, where the U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived in Beijing and marking the start of a two-day visit to China ahead of an expected high-level discussion with the Chinese President Xi Jinping.
The visit, which has drawn global attention, is expected to focus on a range of sensitive issues including trade relations, regional security, and ongoing geopolitical tensions between Washington and Beijing. Trump was received upon arrival in Beijing, with both sides signaling cautious optimism ahead of the talks, which are being described by analysts as potentially significant for future U.S.-China relations. While details of the agenda remain tightly controlled, diplomatic observers say the meeting could test both leaders' ability to find common ground amid years of strained ties and economic rivalry between the two global powers. Security has been tightened in and around key government zones as the two-day engagement gets underway, with the world closely watching for any breakthrough or setback from the discussion.
From the visit of the U.S. President to Beijing in Asia, we move to West Africa, where the former Nigerian government minister has been handed a 75 years prison sentence in the landmark corruption ruling. It's being described as one of the country's most severe convictions in recent years.
The court found the former official guilty on multiple counts related to corruption, including abuse of office and misappropriation of public funds, in a case that has drawn significant national and international attention. Judges described the evidence as overwhelming, leading to a cumulative sentence that effectively reflects decades of punishment under multiple charges. The ruling is being seen as a rare and strong signal in the fight against corruption in Nigeria, where high-profile convictions of senior political figures are relatively uncommon. Anti-corruption advocates say the judgments could strengthen public confidence in the justice system while also serving as a warning to current and former office holders. However, legal analysts note that such verdicts are often subject to lengthy appeal processes, meaning the final outcome may still evolve over time.
And back to Beijing, where the U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping have concluded a high-level talks described as a very successful, although not formal, agreement have been confirmed.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping have wrapped up a closely watched diplomatic engagement that both sides characterize as highly productive. According to the statement, following the meeting, decisions covered key global issues including trade relations, geopolitical stability, and economic cooperation between the United States and China. Despite the positive tone described by both delegations, officials confirmed that no binding agreement or signed deals were reached at the conclusion of the talks. Sources indicated that while progress was made on several decision points, both sides opted to continue consultations before making any formal commitments. The meeting has drawn global attention given the long-standing economic and political significance of relations between Washington and Beijing. Analysts say the successful talks label reflects improved dialogue, but the absence of concrete agreements suggests that major differences still remain unresolved. For now, diplomacy appears to be moving forward, but the world is still waiting for the deal signing to follow the handshakes.
So that's how we wrap up today's edition, this week's edition of the News Review, live and direct from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate. The News Review was also live across all our social media handles on MBN 360. Make a date, same time next week. We'll be back with more on the major stories making headlines across the country and the rest of the world. My name is El Samuels. Do have a good afternoon.